Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. This is Kevin Coyne with the Venture Outfitter crew at Tech Ranch. Part of what we're here to do today, and we're going to hear from the community. We're going to talk a lot about a lot of different things that are happening around the Tech Ranch. Have a slightly brighter look at life, about stuff that's been happening, and we're here today to focus on how can we make your life easier as an entrepreneur. So Venture Outfitter Weekly presents Automating Everything. I am in the process of automating everything in the Tech Ranch, and I wanted to share some of that knowledge with you. We're here at the Venture Outfitter. The whole purpose of the Venture Outfitter is the Tech Ranch community coming together to help you build out your venture and do the things that help push your mission forward. I would like to say thank you to Linda Blackman and her team at DuoWorks. They are a sponsor for our studio. We actually have multiple locations across Austin alone, but really it's been great to actually have them as long-term partners in the support of this type of work. And if you're looking for co-working, if you're looking for a mailbox, if you're looking for a closed-door office, they have all the above. They're really great about working with people that are off-site because they can kind of configure what they do. Since they're a smaller operation than say something like a WeWork, there'll be a lot more interact with you. They can support what you need. So reach out to them. We have quite a few international companies that use this as their point of presence. And thank you to Linda and her team for supporting the studio. So let's start with today's quote, which I mean on multiple levels. Albert Einstein said, "Freedom in any case is only possible by constantly struggling for it." We've been talking about a variety of different things, some very deeply emotional type of issues, as well as other things. Today, there's no emotion. It's all about finding freedom through automating everything. And I believe that because we have a few other people that are in the audience today, we're going to have a little bit of time after the official stuff to talk through. I'm hoping that parts of our studio audience have a few things that like to say, hey, this is how I'm making myself free on automating things, but also we'll have a little bit of time with our audience or with our core community to share things. Obviously, I will be listening in, or I'll be watching over here on this screen for quotes or requests that come up on the LinkedIn stream, as well as on Facebook. So if you have something you'd like to share or request or ask or whatever, or you have other ideas about what you'd like to do, please just let us know. And I will be paying attention to there, because I'd like to, as we're building out the audience, I think it's kind of great to have that interaction. We will be switching in the new year to Restream. So we're going to actually publish, we're going to do a lot more activity where our studio even becomes more studio-ish. And I'll talk more about that. But for those of you that like being in the live audience, we're going to have that space. We'll have some things that are going to be happening. But by the beginning of the year, I want to switch over to that just because it'll give us more control, more tools and stuff like that. So if you'd like to continue to be in that, just make sure you raise your hand and say, hey, I kind of like being in the Zoom. I like keeping the community activity like we've been doing like that. I do know that for some of the people who watch on LinkedIn and things like that, it'll be a little bit easier for them to participate, because we'll be able to time things better by switching over. So know that that's coming. All right, well, so let's automate everything, and we'll talk a little bit about what's coming. We forgot to put the slides in that says next week we're going to be, the topic will be I'll be home for Christmas, and we'll hear from several of you about what your Christmas plans are. And then the final thing in the year is going to be the future comes. It's going to be all about the technologies that are showing up. About Fusion just got announced. There's some really breakthrough things that are happening in the mental health space with things that I'd like to talk about. GPT, and other activities that are happening in OpenAI with artificial intelligence. We'll talk a lot about different technologies. If you have a technology you'd like to make sure it gets talked about during that time too, kind of be a community conversation. And I'd love to have several of you say, hey, here's the technology that is just busted out. I think we're at a point in life where we're seeing this rapid technology acceleration, 3D printing of homes, space shots, space technology that's taking off, things like that. It's not happening in one field, but I think it's interesting to just say, hey, this is what's happening. So especially if you have expertise in one of these areas and you'd like to be a part of that conversation, let us know. All right, back to the topic at hand. Since I didn't put those slides into the deck, I wanted to make sure I did that. But today is about automating everything, making the entrepreneur's life easier. And I'm going to go through what was supposed to be 4, and I think it ended up being 6 or 7 different things. I was like, hey, this is good. This is good. This is good. And I was going to kick out a bunch of them. And I'm like, nah, let's share about this sort of stuff, because I'm now able to do so much more than I used to be. That I'm like, why didn't I spend more time with this earlier? Now, most of you guys know that that I'm directly connected to, that I've been going through a process called the Replaceable Founder, run by a guy by the name of Ari Meisel. Ari is my coach. I talk to him, or I leave him voice notes almost daily. And quite literally almost daily through Voxer, just like same coaching tools that we use for our coaching practice with the Pioneer program I use with him. And that's actually another thing that I didn't even think about. A lot of tools allow for synchronous or asynchronous leaving of messages. That's what we're doing. So I'm going through the Replaceable Founder program, and I have this coach named Ari Meisel that I spend daily interactions with. And part of what's happening is every little piece, as we design out part of the business, every little piece that we can break off part of and automate and put into get a software robot to do, or outsource to someone else, or or maybe parts of it, we're actually not doing as much stuff. We just replaced our whole accounting system with some ways of using shopping cart technology, just to make it easier, to lower the number of errors and stuff like that. I'll talk about that, but I'll go through the examples that we have laid out first. First thing, if you're still managing your calendar when you're actually booking appointments and you're doing it by hand, that sucks. You should change. There's a tool called Calendarly that you can send out, and you can have many different URLs. Like I have one that's just for, hey, this is a Zoom 30 meeting. If I want to meet with someone for 30 minutes, and it's only open on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I don't do anything on Mondays and Tuesdays with it. I'm using Calendarly. I have a special one for when I interact with Europeans, since we have a lot of activities that are happening in Europe as well. And there's only certain mornings that I want to have those interactions. Just so you know, I do those interactions on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, but I don't want to have book. It's only for my European context. Do I want to be booking with stuff like that? I have one that's configured for Japan, and that's only on Monday and Tuesday evenings, because that ends up hitting their Tuesday and Wednesday morning. And then I have one that's set up for our Central Asian friends, which are late night typically on Monday nights. And the amazing thing about this is, so that's a bunch of URLs to track. But the fact is that because we're working around the world, it's allowing, it's saving so much time. The other side of it too is there's certain people that it's just not clear that push really hard on trying to get on my schedule. I have one Calendarly when I don't know if the person's serious or not, and they say, I really want to talk to you. Okay, well, that Calendarly link has a amount of money that you have to pay. You have to swipe a credit card on it, and then it can go in there, and they pretty much can have free reign if they're going to spend, $350 an hour or something like that for that time. That'll just go straight into the calendar as well. And I get a lot of people that say, I will do whatever it takes to do that. Well, sometimes if I don't know them and they're not introduced in a certain way, that's the right tool to use. I don't do a lot of that because typically, we try to connect into our programs and things like that. But the main thing about Calendarly, and the reason I'm going through and trying to give you all these different examples, is to prompt your thinking about how you can leverage things. I will have another Calendly that's set up during South by Southwest during March of this next year, because, during those 5 days of South by Southwest Interactive, typically I'm meeting people from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And that's a different thing, but that URL is only opened up during that period of time. And the great thing about it is we'll set it up by January for booking times that are all the way to March 10th to the 15th, that the time for South by Southwest Interactive. Really powerful way of doing things, something you should consider if you haven't already. And if you have other examples about how you've done stuff with it, I'd love to hear, because I'm surprised it took me a long time to come up with all those different scenarios. And now I have them and I'm like, wow, why? It used to be, I just had one Calendly link. Hey, here's my calendar. But now I'm able to optimize for things. So let me know what your thoughts are. There's a lot of stuff as well, like in accounting. Like a lot of times we have a bookkeeper, we have an accountant at Tech Ranch. But a lot of times stuff will come into my mailbox that says, hey, this is something that needs to be handled. Recently, there's a question on one of the billings for one of the attorneys we use. And usually I would have to remember or write it down someplace. Well, now, since we use Gmail for our mail, part of what I have set up through a tool called Zapier, in my Gmail, I just tag that email address with a label that I call it @ accounting. And you don't have to use @. It's easier for me to make sure that the one is like at the highest part of the list of labels or mailboxes inside of Gmail. So I move the mail message there. Automatically, this tool called Zapier grabs that and puts it onto the Trello board for accounting. And what is the Trello board? Trello board is a fancy, I'll give you the fancy word for it. It's a Kanban system, a production system. And essentially, I only want to be touching accounting, and I don't want the interactions with our bookkeeper. They only happen on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. And sometimes they only happen, twice a month. Sometimes right now, since we have things automated so much, I'm really only having to get my hands dirty and that stuff one time a month, which is freaking awesome because it just saves me so much time. But the way that this workflow starts is all I'm doing is moving the email message from Gmail into one mailbox, and it automatically moves all the details and all that sort of stuff onto that Trello. This alone has saved me so many headaches on trying to get to inbox 0. And I know everyone might ask, Kevin, are you at inbox 0? No, I'm at an inbox 0. I'm at an inbox like 1900 or something like that. but it's getting better, because on stuff like accounting, like if you don't pay a loan or you don't take care of a file, or if you have a consultant or a contractor that you haven't paid and you want to make sure that all those details get put in the right place, this is an amazing tool. And I think that for all the different people, since we work with a lot of different contractors, a lot of different consultants, and sometimes the amounts would be like $125 here and $1,000 over there. All that stuff's important to track, and doing it in just regular mailboxes really sucks. So this is one of the examples of one of the things that I really, 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 really like. Now, another thing about Trello is if you have other things like, as an example, I have a personal Trello board that I call work area. And a lot of times I just want to remember different aspects of things on that, something comes in, then I'm like, hey, that's interesting. I want to follow up and do a little bit of research. That goes on to my work area Trello board. There's movies that I might watch in the future, or sometimes there's research that you guys email to me. And I'm like, okay, right now is not the time for me to read it, but it will be at some other point. One of the things that I do is there is a plugin to Gmail for Trello that you authorize your Trello account and your Gmail account to just tie things in. And with 2 clicks, one click to open up Trello on the Gmail pane and 1 click to add that to the appropriate place, I'm able to just do that as well. And, it's stuff that's interesting to me that's maybe not as urgent as like the accounting example, but it's much more flexible in this case. And, and it's a free plugin. If you've got Gmail, this is a free plugin to a free Trello account. There's no excuse for the little things you just want to remember, but you don't necessarily want to keep in a mailbox. You want to I'm finding, and this is following my coach's guidelines, as quickly as I can get rid of mail and get things onto the appropriate workflows, the closer to liberation I am from the doldrums of my business of stuff that is absolutely not value add. This is a great example. Someone sent me recently a really interesting research paper. The guy is a doctor in genetics. He sent me he sends me all this really interesting stuff. And I just want to remember it. And but I threw it out there. So this is Gmail to Trello again, free login, or free plugin that goes into Gmail from Trello. And you can totally take advantage of it for free. Next thing is we have our contact form. If you go to techranch.com/contact us, and if you want to get on to the TechRanch radar, for being, you have a venture, I get a lot of people saying, hey, help us get funding or help us do the following thing. I always send it back to the contact us form. So all that information is structured. What we have here is we're still using a free HubSpot CRM with a free Google form on the front end. And then Zapier's in the middle of this as well. Zapier is this tool that just plugs different pieces in, but it takes, Zapier takes all the information from the form and then posts it into HubSpot. At the same time, we also have an email that goes out just kind of as backup. It goes to a Gmail group that just has said, hey, this following lead just came in as well. So we can see it, what you might consider more manually. And then we have the CRM system. The CRM system actually helps us manage all the details. And so it's a really great tool. I think Paulina's saying that she did a marketing class through HubSpot, and it's a really great tool. Another thing about it is the functionality I'm talking about is free. Now, at some point, if we got a lot more activity, we'd have to start paying for Zapier. But right now, the number of Zapier's zaps that are being triggered is still below the number that's required for the free level, which is kind of it's amazing that we can have that level of freedom, and no one's having to retype things. Deals immediately go into the HubSpot. There's nothing that's happening that's making it laborious through that whole process. Another thing is there's a lot of different activities that are happening on my phone that just say I'm in the middle of the day just wanting to remember something that, again, is important, but not so urgent. But it's not something to stop everything. I just need to remember, oh, wait, the following thing happened. And a lot of times it'll be a pop-up or something like that. I'm getting a bunch of different messages that are showing up right now on my phone. And I want to remember that. Well, one of the things that I do is I just take a screenshot. You hold the 2 buttons, click screenshot. There's this tool called IFT, which runs on your phones that will take that screenshot. And then I have it pushing into that same work area Trello board. So one of the other things that I'll do is I'll go back and I'll sort through those I try to do it on a weekly basis. The truth is that I'm probably doing it usually 1 or 2 times a month where I'm like, oh, okay, what was it I was trying to remind myself about with that screenshot? That's IFT plus going straight to a Trello board. And again, makes life so simple because, there's a lot of important things that aren't urgent, but I just want to remember, or it could be something as easy as, One of my friends sends me a movie title. I'm using that as an example just because I don't pay enough attention a lot of times. And this is another thing that just makes it really, really simple to just finish up. And in that same idea of workflow, what if you come across a website that you want to come back to, or there's a form that you want to fill out? Like as an example, one of the nonprofits that I wanted to remember to make a donation before the close of the year recently, the maps.org organization that I told you guys about, they sent me a marketing campaign. I click on the link, shows up the websites. I don't have the credit card information available for me immediately. So what do? I just tag that with Digo. And what Digo is it's a tag cloud kind of thing. You can actually have, you can tag lots of different URLs, lots of different websites, that is. You can actually put some details in it, like it's got a title of the web page. And then you can actually, if you select text, using when you actually select through things, I can show this in a little bit if you'd like, if anyone would like me to. I'm happy to just show it. But you select a little bit of text, it puts it into the tag. And then using Zapier again, I have that go to my Trello board, my work area Trello board. Now I have them set up for accounting things I have to remember how to do. I have them set up for I have a tag called to mom, the stuff that I need to send to my mom. It's again, how do we be mindful without having to remember, or having to write things down onto paper or whatever the tool is. This has really been valuable too, because I've got a bunch of different tags that are there. When I find interesting material that I want to save and share with the Tech Ranch community, part of what's happening is there's a lot of tools or different ideas or even Twitter streams that have really valuable information that I want to share with you. But it's not the sort of stuff that I want to email off to Jello, my assistant, or anyone else. What's really cool about this is I can capture that information, whether it's a Twitter stream or another page or something like that, make sure that it has a title and a little bit of a description. And then immediately that goes into the right area. As an example, one of the places that's happening, or one of the places that's getting filled out on community.techranch.com is, there's going to be places where posts automatically come out of my Digo stream, where I just make sure it has the right title and make sure it has the right body, and then the link gets pasted into there. For those of y'all that are part of the Venture Outfitter and you want to see these different technology areas, I'm going to have it set up where I can just do that whole thing with just click. And I typically read a lot of material on around the world, and so just having these tags right now, I've been just doing this, serving my own needs, where I click, and then I can have this go into this place. But now we're going to start publishing more from that. And in fact, I bet you some of the community members that are listening to this are going to get a chance to do that as well, just because it's really, really, really powerful. Now, the key thing you have to learn is you have to use RSS. Some of you new timers probably don't know, like us old timers, what RSS is, but it's just a simple way, of structured way of taking information and publishing it out there. That's 6 different examples. As we were talking, I think I mentioned there's even more. We'll be doing things with here's a short summary slide, but we're going to be doing a lot of things with other access points and stuff like that. Just gives you kind of an idea of some of the things you can do. And we're probably talking about, out of the stuff that's there, I'm probably saving only maybe 2 to 3 hours a week of time. That's on the time saving side. But on the other side, the amount of effectiveness now that I can get even more information out to the right areas of the business, that's insane. That's where there's all of this extra power that's happening where, and I'm not having to ask Jello to do it. I used to always have to send him emails. I'm like, hey, please make sure you post this in the following area. He's got better things to do with the time that we have. And so why not have a robot do that, as an example? That's just a list of things. Part of the thing I'd like to do is ask the community if you have things you'd like to actually share, or if you have questions about any of these. I know we got a couple of different notes that came in, and I'm trying to look at all the different tools where we get notes to see things. I'm like, if anytime you see me looking up here, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what was just said in the Zoom chat. That's what was just said in the other areas. But I'm wondering, any questions you guys have about any of these? Or actually, first thing, I'm just wondering, any other automations you've done that is making your life easier? Anyone like to share automation or two that could be part of the conversation? Oh yeah, well, when there's a question, I usually call on David Potes. So David, I know that you got stuff that you're doing. Come on, how you doing it in Monterrey, Mexico? We haven't heard from you in such a long time, so I gotta push you. Like, you're most productive.
Not actually, to be honest, that was one of the reasons I was interested in participating on this call, because that's one of the things I actually lack, and I want to learn more about tools and what you were doing. So I mean,
Yeah.
I do use Calendly.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm actually looking for tools for automation in different processes, but I have to go further back and analyze what it is that I want to automate first. But yeah, this is something that I was interested in hearing about, but unfortunately, I don't have anything to share with you with this subject.
Wait, so how about this? Let me put you on the spot and say, what is one thing that if you could automate it, would save you some time? Because there's probably, truth be told, another 20 things that I haven't said that I'm just wondering, is there anything particular you'd like to actually bring up and say, hey, Kevin, how would you automate the following thing?
So yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. You show a couple of examples about how to use your email and transfer that to Trello and how to use that. At the same time, I'm thinking that probably had another thing in mind, but just forgot about it.
Well, I tell you what, we'll give some examples in a little bit. I think it's just so powerful that.
Hey, second.
I was going to say, ahead. Lindsay, join us.
Thank you. Apologies for the
you.
Thank you. Sorry for the nasal thing. I'm recovering from a cold, which I picked up on Monday. Apparently, there are 7 different kind of toxins going around the atmosphere. So wear your masks, guys. So anyway, I come from a big corporate background, and there's a point where a startup becomes a small business, becomes a medium-sized business, starts to become a big noise in a space. And I think it's interesting that big corporations tend not to use those. And I don't know why, by the way. I don't know why but what they tend to use, for example, is for ERP, resource planning, they'll use SAP. And there's a whole ecosystem out there for SAP. And if you're into the managing sales flow and leads and prospecting, and that's, of course, the 800-pound gorilla is Salesforce. And there's another big ecosystem with APIs to go with different apps. You can design dashboards to track all sorts of aspects of the sales flow, the sales process. And I'm really interested to know whether what you've described there, which sound absolutely brilliant apps, do they link in with those, or are they like a parallel ecosystem?
With Salesforce, I know that Zapier has some pretty amazing tools into Salesforce. I haven't seen it into SAP and the big boy ERP kind of systems and stuff like that. But for Salesforce, which is now got it's got the whole Salesforce, what is it called, the AppForce ecosystem of different plugins. Zapier is definitely tied into that. And with Zapier, you can do an amazing set of other things that are just really, really, really powerful. And the funny thing about it is, I mean, if I was to bring up a screen in just a second and show off some of the different examples, let me just do this actually for fun, because it's interesting to see, because a lot of people don't believe how much is there. Like, as an example, I think we'll actually look up the one that Lindsay just said. Here's Salesforce, and then say I want to go to Zendesk as an example, or some of the other things that are interesting. And then the idea is you have a trigger, like when you have like, okay, new account, new record, whatever it might be, then you do the following action. This could be Trello as an example. And we were talking about, let's see, let me go back to this and say, I want, actually, you can see some of the ones right here. The one that I was about to do is this one right here. Create telecards from new start Gmail emails. This sort of stuff, it's just crazy about what you can do. Tweet new RSS feed items. So if I wanted to automatically, this is an interesting one. If I say there's a New York Times article, I'm just going to go to New York Times and I'll do this on the fly. And I'm like, okay, sprawling hospital chain. Let's see that I want to write about this. So Ascension, which is in the local space and all sorts of stuff, spending years, and now it wasn't ready. And then I find that this information is really interesting. Part of what I'm going to do, and I don't know if y'all see this card, but I'm saving a bookmark. Notice, can y'all see actually the screen where it actually has the context, the text? Okay, looks like you can. So it caught the title, and then it caught the information here. I could actually put this on healthcare blog. This is not a real tag on my tags. And I hit save. If we were to go to Digo, I go here to healthcare blog. You're going to see this tag show up right here. Now, the whole secret about how to have this become your tweeting machine based on what we just said. Obviously, this is moving slow for the demo. It's always funny. I used to do demos as a system engineer for Next. And anytime you do a demo, of course, things are going to move slow. But well, make a long story short, in a little bit, this tag is going to show up, and Digo is not optimized for my presentation. But for this tag right here, there's going to be an RSS feed. I always have to remember where the RSS feeds are on the page, but there's a RSS feed that is tied on this page that you can get access to.
Well, I have to say, Kevin, it's quite brilliant. I mean, the one thing that is marvelous as a startup entrepreneur, if you give this thought right up front to the design of your front and your back office and have all the steps joined up, and that's why I think a lot of people don't do this, you can be so efficient, so low cost, and you can be so responsive. I think it's brilliant. Yeah,
and the key thing to what you're pointing to, Lindsay, is a lot of times the MVP for a lot of these startups can be no code MVPs based on this sort of stuff. I really wish I had embraced it much earlier than I have, because I know, the company that TechRanch was in 2019 had a lot more people at it and all that stuff, and we were doing really cool things. And we had some really big country kind of level accounts that were doing things there, and so we would put people into places where now there's a little software glue that ties this to that, and it's been really, really, really interesting, because a lot of times I'd find interesting stuff back then. How Lindsay and I both worked with a woman named Kristen, and I would have to hand them off to her. And here's this, young professional that's essentially pushing a digital broom. And I hated that. I hated asking. But a lot of times for our entrepreneurs, for a few hundred entrepreneurs in a cohort or something like that, it was really valuable stuff. Yeah, I know. At this point, you can just do it where it's just like tying the different pieces together. Airtable is another good thing to look into. I didn't have a simple way that I could actually share one of our Airtables about how we do deal flow without releasing some information that would be considered proprietary, not truly confidential, but same kind of thing. Otherwise, I'd show that off as well. So there's another way that, if you have if everyone out there probably has a spreadsheet that they're running their business off of, but you want to take that spreadsheet and then automate it and make it more of a database, but then put a front end interface on top of that. We're totally doing that right now. We just hosted, actually, I just thought of an Airtable that I'll show off. we just hosted a number of people from 16 executives from Kyrgyzstan as an example. Let me see if I can bring that one up. I'm just wondering, anyone else have an example they'd like to share? I know we have a lot of talent that's in the studio audience, so I'd love to actually see if anyone else would like to say, hey, this, it's funny, Melvin's actually saying digital broom. Yeah, we should get our people out of doing digital broom type of work and get robots to do that. Anyone else that'd like to share like one that they've done? Omar, Paulina, Richard, RD?
You've mentioned a lot of the same tools I've already used. So the HubSpot has, the reason I mentioned it in the chat, they have a lot of marketing courses, digital marketing. And so I went through several certifications for that. So anybody, just an FYI, anybody interested in digital marketing, they have really good courses.
That's a good example. That's a good example for sure. What I'll do is I'll share another example because I think that, again, people are so used to not thinking this way because the tools have actually come on that you now can do this sort of stuff for free, with a little bit of knowledge, but still for free. Here's a good example of one that I can share because this is public knowledge. So we supported we had 16 executives from Kyrgyzstan that were here just a couple of weeks ago. We had a very special program to help connect them into a lot of different groups. You'll look at this view, and with this view, you can see that we have what looks like a spreadsheet. But then with this other view, you can see things where we're actually moving out and actually looking at all the details. Like if I wanted to look at this one gentleman, I have a page that I can actually find out more about him. But what's really cool is, you can automate things, and we didn't do a lot of automation on this one, but I built an interface because I wanted to have some of our interns to be able to input things in, and then the guy who runs our country manager program, who only gets to work a few hours a week. I needed him. He was actually in the room with me. His name is Matthew. And so as we were going through the same group, we had this really cool interface where, okay, if there are notes that we wanted to make, and I won't go through all of these just because I'll expose this one, but this same gentleman that was the first person, the CTO of ABD Capital, here's what we had here, and then we could actually take notes to go through his questions, and then suggestions that we made. Now, there's other suggestions on other ones, and just to shield you guys from a little bit of the data that's there, I had these type of interfaces. So the nice thing about this is a real interface. This is a real interface, interface that we are using for editing. I wrote those words there just so it is easier people to figure out. But if we want to go back to the database, here is the spreadsheet that people are using as the database. All the functionality we're using is here. Now, if anyone hasn't used Airtable before and they're about to use it, let me invite you because, we get a little, they give us a little bump for that. But that being said, you can just sign up for it directly for free as well. Really impressed with the type of tools, because this type of tool in the past, given that I grew up as a software developer, this type of tool in the past, it's not that hard to build. And, a lot of my software developer friends, which I used to be, would be like, dude, that's pretty simple, just like a few lines of Ruby code. Well, the best part about it is I didn't write any Ruby code. I didn't write any code. I had to know how to organize things a little bit. And because I have the database background, perhaps my structure is third normal form. For those of you all that are database geeks, you know what I'm talking about. But the truth is that we could take a spreadsheet, say you have something on a Google spreadsheet, import it into Airtable, and then actually have a nice interface about that.
So Kevin, I write for a publisher in the Netherlands, Caravanserai, and we've gone through a lot of these issues. So they're a publisher, which means they have a workflow which consists of people post articles, they pick the articles, then they have to have, when are you going to do it? And who's doing what? Where are you? Or when's it going to get delivered? And then the magazine has to be compiled, and artists and photographs, the whole thing, and then people get paid, right? And what we then do is actually even email people free copies. So there's a whole production going on here. We chose Monday.com, or rather my publisher actually did that. How does that compare to, for example, what you've just described at Airtime?
I looked at Monday.com and I looked at Airtable, and they're very similar in the functionality they have. Airtable feels a little bit more flexible, although therefore, I mean, it's more flexible in a certain way, which also means it has less, it's easier to get lost.
Yeah.
But they're similar. You can organize them very similar. The one of the assistance services that we're using uses an application that's built on top of Monday.com. And I recognize, it's very similar. It's just like in Airtable, the key difference that I've noticed is, well, actually in Monday.com, the key difference is that they actually already have certain concepts like, notions of an item and then a sub item to that item. Whereas that concept in Airtable, you just sort of have to make up. But as long as you know that, and I'm not sure why I ended up getting a little bit more traction with Airtable. I think, one of our venture partners, Omar, actually had a little bit of a bias towards Airtable. And I think I probably invested more time in it, 6 months ago when we were working on that one Airtable document or the Airtable system, just because he had a little bit more of a bias towards it. And then, late one night while having a bottle of wine and the computer, I ended up going a little bit crazy about it. So I think
I could chime in real quick if you want. I mean,
yeah, Omar, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, Airtable is a bit different to Monday, where Monday is kind of a bit more aligned with things like Asana and I think the other one is called ClickUp, that are kind of more project management oriented and kind of road mapping and managing timelines and milestones with different parties and stakeholders, whether internally or externally. Whereas Airtable is just kind of a very beefed up version of Excel. It's like Excel on steroids, online in the cloud, and you can now attach all these kind of like user interface attributes to those spreadsheets, basically. So it's kind of more of the analytical engine that can be connected to a Monday or an Asana or a ClickUp or even a Trello, right? And you can have workflow between them and kind of optimize the analytical side of your business decision making and info capture with the actual coordination between parties and team members and other external parties.
Thank you. That's a very good and very helpful description. Now, some people I'm working with are devotees to Excel, so that'll be music to their ears.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to just see how for one of the projects we're doing for the Japanese government, as an example, where we have to keep things in very, very strict, like very tight, very strict budgets. It's been just a godsend because, I can, as the manager type who doesn't really like managing, as the manager type, I can manage to the budget, but I can actually have all the work is actually happening by the individuals who are participating in the whole process. Just makes it so much simpler. With the projects that we're going to be launching around South by Southwest, which will start to show off in January this year, or this coming year, or this coming January. Again, most everything that's going to be happening is going to be, a well thought out Airtable where, there's a form that if you want to participate, you're going to put stuff into the form and all the workflow is going to go through that. It's going to get published automatically to websites and stuff like that. I'm, now we still haven't found the right Airtable engineer to replace me with, which is bad. But every once in a while, I'll be a total geek about it. And I kind of like that. There were a couple of questions I'll go back to. And in the chat, does anything interface with Slack? And Kekoa or John actually said that there's a bunch of Airtable integrations with Slack. There's also there's Slack integrations through Zapier. Definitely very interesting to look there as well. Look at Zapier. There's a bunch of tools that are competitive with Zapier. I just started with Zapier and I have a bunch of Zaps there, but you can look at other tools like IFT and things like that as well. There was one other question. Omar also said try shift.com. And then
I'll give you a quick kind of brief
on
that. I've been using Shift now for about a year, and what I like about Shift is that it creates a single environment kind of interface for you to bring in both Google and Microsoft accounts all together in one space. So you can manage, independent Gmail accounts, for example, your G drives. You can manage independent Microsoft or Outlook email accounts. And then you can also have the other applications like Slack or Trello or Asana. I mean, they basically have it all, but it's all kind of in that single window. So you're not having to toggle between a bunch of different windows on your desktop. And I found that to be really helpful because I hate having to move between window to window to window. And I do have a lot of different accounts that I have to manage in between. So for people who do that and need to have separate different domains and, accounts across different platforms and operating systems, that was really helpful for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Kim Johnson on the community site. Melvin just grabbed this good discussion. Would like to have the list posted and have folks post alternatives to each. The biggest issues we have is being tied to Google or Microsoft ecosystem. We use an email service that gives us 500 emails for free. So we could use lots of emails for clinical trial subjects, info, accounting, etc. Also, we tried Jira and found that U-Track more effective for us. So the Trello Gmail example hooks you into ecosystems that limit options unless you master Zapier. Yeah, well, and the other thing to say about that, Kim, is part of the thing that I think is interesting is that through Fiverr in organizations like that, or Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, you can find engineering talent that, for $15, like, some guy that's in the middle of Nigeria, as an example, or sometimes in Eastern Europe and things like that. It's really interesting that you can get them to build that one little piece of code. I also love the fact that there's a lot of on-ramps between open source software like WordPress through Zapier and tools like that into these other tools as well. So the nice thing about it is the idea of being able to build these really quickly is really, really, it's really powerful about what might be possible there. What are the other things? Let's see. Richard just said, just finished up a project on Fiverr, waiting for app to go live on Google Play. That's excellent to hear. Richard, we'd love to hear more about that as you're prepared to share about it, because I think part of the idea that my coach talks about it this way, that you can now outsource execution. And I haven't been as effective with that yet because I have a hard time letting go. But Richard, you came off of mute. Please share.
Yeah, here's the critical thing that I didn't appreciate until I did it. And that is that it helps you test some ideas very, very cheaply, right? You don't think that you have to go to Fiverr to get a complete project. You can throw a project onto the notice board on Fiverr. You can have people pitch, and you can have multiple people working on the one project to see what different people come up with. It is a very, very fast way to test ideas. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
If you feel, let's see, I guess we're getting late on time, but if you feel like in a second or two, you could actually bring up a screen that you could just share. I'd love to see that myself. And while you're getting prepped, I'll show off the Digo library thing that I was talking about earlier. If that's a possibility, is that something you might consider showing off, like how you posted?
Sure. Let me see.
All right. While you're getting ready, I'll just show over here on my side of the house. Here's the blog. You notice that how a sprawling hospital chain. This is the tag. Here's the healthcare blog. Right over here, you have RSS. And the nice thing about this is you just click here and you get that RSS feed. This is the RSS feed that then primes the going back to we saw this RSS to Twitter. So if I wanted to create an automatic tweet based on this RSS through this piece right here could automatically do that. Now, I've done this in the past. I haven't been doing it recently, but this is a great example. You could actually, if you want a social media multiplier, what I just showed you is available for free. Now, once you actually start doing a lot of tags, I'm at the crazy level of tags in Digo. you might do that separately. Let me hand it over to Richard. Richard, if you're able to, it'd be great
Yeah.
to actually have you.
Just share screen.
Yeah, Jello, make sure you can share screens.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
you
so
go.
is that working? Can you see that?
Can't see it yet.
Not yet.
Okay, can you see the Fiverr screen?
Not yet, not yet.
Just 1 second.
While you're bringing it up, John just said in the chat, similar to Fiverr, 99designs.com is useful. It's a great option. Omar just rung in as well and said it's a great option for actually sharing, using it for a couple different times now for designing a logo, recommended to several colleagues. Okay, so now Richard, you've got the screen up with Fiverr. We can see it.
Right, so you go to Fiverr and one big button there at the beginning is post a request. It's right there on the front page. So you click post a request and you just fill in the project that you want to research. Then you choose a category, okay? And you will get bids within half an hour, okay? And you can start communicating, you can start talking. You can see the record of projects that those people have worked on, right? And this is all like for nothing, even if you just want to spend, you can get, what would cost you something to get done here, let's say $10,000, you can get done for $200, okay? And it's just
Wow.
a very, very quick way to test your ideas. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It doesn't have to be a complete project. You use Fiverr for research. This is the important thing, not necessarily to produce a complete project. Then you can turn around and you can go and source suppliers here in Austin, and you can say, look, I've got 5 or 6 iterations of this. This is give you an idea of what I've done, of what I'm looking for. So, you might go and spend $500 or something. And then you feel you're giving a much clearer picture to whoever it is you want to work with here in Austin. Use it for research. It's a very, very fast research tool.
I had another founder that I worked with for a period of time that actually would use Fiverr for recruiting, remote teams and building remote teams. But he would start off by throwing, like Richard said, a kind of a project specific task.
Brilliant.
As it relates to, for example, the sales that they were doing or the development on the website. And then based on that, he'd test out all these different bids that would come in and evaluate. And then from there, give them a first project and then incentivize them to just stay on board, and they would stay on board.
Brilliant, brilliant idea. Brilliant.
Yeah, so one of the things that's just like amazing about how much capability is there. And I can imagine that, any one system for a startup has 5 different parts or something like that, right? With this, you could actually build one part at a time, $200 per part, boom, $1,000 later, you've got your business validated from an MVP standpoint, which is an amazing thing.
A lot of people, there are a lot of existing projects out there, and they can reskin existing projects for you just to test some ideas, right? So someone has built a version of what you're looking for. You want to tweak in a little, in a small way, and then 5 days later it's live on the Play Store. It's amazing. It's amazing.
That is beautiful. Well, make sure that when you share a little bit more, when you publish it, tell us more about it, just because it'd be great to be actually for us to get a little bit more exposure for you. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Great. Okay.
Let me do one more thing. Well, just like the final bonus round, I'm going to show off one other automation that's been saving me a lot of time with working. This is another Trello board that I have a Google form. I won't show you the Google form because I don't want someone to say, hey, I'm going to help Kevin out by just dumping a bunch of stuff into it. But imagine that there's a Google form before this. This is my Assist Me TechCrunch Right. Well, assist me. This is me saying, hey, Jello, I need the following thing. Help me out on the following thing. You notice that there's a bunch of things that are happening, but then there's some done items. And I think this one is innocuous. So I have a description that I type in and it said, organize a Zoom or in-person meeting. This is what I typed in. And then I did a video. Now the video more than likely is, you're not going to be able to hear the, actually, this was when I met with the Secretary of State of Texas. His name is John Scott.
He's the
And I won't go into the details about what I discussed to tell Jello to say to John Scott, but then this is actually the business card that I had. That because this is a video, this could have been any kind of thing to marshal action for a third party. This just happens to be, I have a little Google form that I have them, on the desktop or on the I guess you call it a desktop of the phone, that then I type in a real quick description and I take a video, I post it, and then my automatically goes to that other Trello board where I'm saying, Jello, help. And boom, action happens. He takes action on it whenever he is. He's at different time zone, doesn't really matter, but it's the handoff. I mean, it's just like, this is so simple. Now, this could be, a variety of different things that you could do from that standpoint, but the fact that that sort of capability is available for free, wow, so cool. All right, well, we've had a bunch of different great examples. This will be posted, this video today will be posted again into the community.techranch.com website. If you're not on it, especially if you're in the audience here or the green room, I'm not sure what we call the Zoom audience, you want to make sure that you're on the community. We are putting up the paywall for all the new members of people that are going to be coming in as we open things up wider. We did move off of Slack. One of the things that some of you heard and some of you haven't, because we haven't published this. When Slack put up their pretty aggressive paywall, we decided, okay, let's actually get something that gives us more flexibility and capability. We implemented for the community site something called circle.so that, oh, by the way, has also all sorts of Zapier plugins and stuff like that that you can plug into. So we'll be publishing into that as well. But today's episode, if you want to follow up, ask questions about it, Jello will post it into the VO Weekly area. And then if you have threads that you want to go deeper on about that, take them there, because that's actually where we'll do a lot of follow-up on all that sort of stuff. And if you don't get a chance to go to the site, but you're on the site, you're registered on the site, every week you'll get a weekly update about this is what's happening on the site. So that's one of the things that I like about it is you don't have to, like in Slack, you had to go to the place or you had to explicitly do an @channel to get information out. You can now do it in a much more configurable way where each one of you have more control. Lindsay, it's great to see you. Looking forward to having lunch with you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, looking forward to catching up with you. Omar, looking forward to catching up with you later today. David, glad to see you kicking butt, taking names. Melvin, good luck with everything. Kikoa, good to see you. RD, you'll have to tell us more about this new hardware 3D thing that you sent me that email about. And Jello, thank you for running the show. Paulina, good to see you, although we can't see you at all right now. And Richard, thank you for sharing. And then for everyone that's in on the streams, thank you all for listening. For whatever reason, I still don't know why I can't see comments on my screen here. We're going to fix that. One of the things that'll be nice to have when we flip over to Restream, I still want to have the live community studio audience. It'll be a little bit more difficult. You just have to tell us that you want to be in it, and we'll keep that artifact as part of what we do. But the nice thing about it is the communication back out to the people that are watching via the streams will automatically be propagated into the screen. And so that's partially, it'll enhance our ability to communicate with the people who are watching via stream. So it's one of the reasons we're going to switch over. Anything last minute that needs to be said or done? Let me know right now. Oh, someone just sent a chat. I didn't get to see that. Yeah, Melvin says thanks. Well, thank you, Melvin. Part of what we'll do is if you're not in the community yet, or if you want to sign up on our email list, sign up as one of our mentors for scar tissue to donate. If you are focused on a specific country that you want to make sure that has representation in the network, sign up for a country manager, which is an Airtable form, by the way. And go ahead and sign up at this URL. If you're interested in getting on our radar as an entrepreneur or startup or scale up, make sure you go to the contact us form, which is linked onto there as well, or should be linked onto there as well. We'd love to have you involved in the community. And with that, it's 12:03. So kind of let you guys get back to work, whether it's morning, noon, or night over there in your part of the world. It's always an honor to be a part of an entrepreneur group that is driven by vision and values. Let's go change the world for the better together. Thank y'all. Y'all take care. Have a great day.